Diaz Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict, right? And as you can tell by that thumbnail right there, Longo, right? Yes, indeed, I'm going to write some graffiti on the bus. In a menudo style in direct fashion, we're going to talk about this rivalry, this beef between the tiny rascal gangsters, yes, them Asians, man, doing their thing, indubitably, and the Longos, the Chicanos, the Mexicanos that have been there, done that, and well respected, still respected, stay respected. So you can put some respect on their name when you say Longo. The Longueros, Long Beach, real talk, west side as well as the east side. So in order to understand where this rivalry kicked off, how this beef started, and oh, believe me, there was vatos and bodies dropping all over the house. Hey, you can't give me. I'm like, clack, 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 clack. They were clacking. They were clickety clacking on both sides, and they still continue to for decades, right? This is a rivalry that I came to know personally. This is a rivalry that played a big instrumental part in Mexicanos basically deeming the Asians down south not righteous, right? This is what was going on. So in order to understand where this rivalry in Long Beach started, Long Beach, of course, out of the harbor area of LA, you need to understand that there's a historia. You know what? It's always been a predominant area, Long Beach, of Chicanos, Mexicanos. Of course, you got some whites, you got some Africanos, but there's always been a lot of Mexican and Chicano gangs. And of course, at that time, there was a barrio, well-known, that was split into two, and they were the worst of enemigas. There was the west side of Long Beach, as well as the east side of Long Beach, the Longueros. So Longo versus Longo, west and east side, they used to beef just like other cities. You have an east side, a west side, a north and a south, and so nobody fucks with each other, you know? And that's how it was. For a lot of years, these were the rivals. Somewhere in the early 80s, what was happening in the late 70s, early 80s, you had a lot going on in Southeast Asia. Okay, you had a lot of persecution, a lot of oppression, and a lot of their own people having civil wars. So what had happened was a lot of the people were displaced and migrated to the United States, you know, from Southeast Asia. A lot of Asians, Cambodians, Vietnamese, Mien, Hmong, and several others. So when the Vatos went from there, they ended up, a lot of them, on the West Coast, and a lot of them ended up in a little pocket in the city of Long Beach, which they called Little Vietnam. Now, at this time, a lot of the Asian cats, they didn't understand English. They weren't too well versed in the politics and what was going on around them, into gangs or nothing like that, you know. All they knew is that they were just trying to live, so I was scared. It must be better than motherfuckers over there throwing rice patties at you. It's all good in the hood. But these motherfuckers right here, and dispense, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. I got love for my Asian brothers, and you already know, bang, bang, raza up. But they're doing their little thing, and these vatos from Long Beach started to oppress them, okay? And this is the story. I'm telling the story that as I know it, you know, because I've talked to a lot of vatos from TRG. I've had Norteño homeboys that actually claim TRG, but we'll get to that. So when Tiny Rascal Gangsters was formed, what happened was these vatos out of Long Beach, these Asians, started to see the makeup of gangs, started to feel oppressed, and said, you know what, we're going to start our own thing. And that's when they sprang up with the Tiny Rascal Gangsters, the TRGs. Now, of course, the Asian boys and other well-known gangs out of the area came just a little bit later, but about 1984-85 is when TRG was first formed, known as the Tiny Rascal Gangsters. And of course, right from Jump Street, man, they were already being oppressed by the Long Beach area, you know, the vatos from West and East Side Longo. So what happened is they just started mixing, right? They started mixing and everything. And it was primarily at that time was with the East Side of Long Beach that they were mixing with. West Side kind of was staying out of it, but Sosuke, they weren't taking motherfuckers short either. If motherfuckers came into the area, Sosuke, clack, 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 they're going to clickety clack just with the best of them. So what happened is bodies started to drop. You know, anyone that's ever did time or knows about the TRG, man, they're a well-respected gang. Okay, these Asians right here, they're not playing, homes. You know, they're very well known. They're instrumental into a lot of the politics and into a lot of the gang life, being instrumental into most Asian gangs. You know, like I said, the Asian boys is kind of an offshoot of them that started. There were several gangs up north in Merced. You know, we had fucking True Blue, Oriental Troops, MOD, just a lot of different gangs. And a lot of these Asian gangs basically were offshoots, or if not, modeled after the Tiny Rascal Gangsters. But what you had, which makes the Tiny Rascal Gangsters so unique, is their number one enemigas was these vatos out of East Side Longo and West Side Longo. And they used to beef. So what you had is a trifecta. You had West Side going at it with the East Side of Long Beach. You had everyone going at it against the Asians, the TRGs. And believe it or not, quietly as it's kept, at the end of the day, man, the TRGs were holding their own. Now, of course, if I talk to a vato from Longo, he's going to say, Charlie, we were fucking smacking them backwards. And if I talk to a TRG, he's going to be like, shit, hell, Macau, right? He's going to say it like that. But at the same time, you got to give everyone the respect because they're still both around, meaning they both held their own for several years. And I seen it personally, firsthand, when I was in Fred C. Nellis, I was there with a lot of vatos from Long Beach, the west side and the east side. And what happened later on in life was because this beef was going on so tough in the Long Beach area between the Asians, basically, and the Sureños, it got dictated from higher up that the west side and the east side will cease all hostilities towards each other and become one. Of course, you're still going to have the Wario of the West and the Wario of the East, but the Long Beach area will no longer beef. They'll beef primarily against these Asians or any Africanos that wanted that funk too at that time. Of course, you had the insane Kripas, the 20s, and all that out of Long Beach. So there was several little infightings going on. But for the most part, most of the Mexicanos and the Chicanos were focused on these TRG because the TRG vatos are dangerous. They got guns. I can't even spell the things that they got. It's the AK-49, 47, 357 fucking bang bang Magnum. You know what I mean? They got some shit. They're not playing. Asians always got the shit. Motherfuckers will pull the top off with a 50. They ain't playing, bro. It's just, that's the way it's always been. But the TRGs were smacking people. They started to take the initiative to handle their business. So, of course, it was dictated from higher up, higher up the ladder, that they were to end all hostilities between the west side of Longo and the east side of Longo. And basically, they came together to fight the Asians. And it happened like that. Now, me personally, I was in CYA and Fred C. Nellis, and I ran into a lot of Longueros, a lot of vatos from Long Beach, the harbor area. And they had their own little ranfla going on. They kicked it with vatos from Gardenia and whoever else they kicked it with. I wasn't really paying too much attention, so that's good. But I was watching them from the side. I had to make sure. You know what I mean? It was gonna be summertime in the LBC if motherfuckers got crazy, right? But at the same time, hey, I wasn't sleeping on them because I knew they were about their business. But I remember a vato gets there. An Asian vato gets there. He walks in. He has his bedroll. I'm not really tripping off him. I look, I see he's an Asian. You can tell by his getup that the vato's, he's respectable. He's humble. He's quiet. And he ain't no punk. You can just look in his eyes and you see it. The eye of the tiger. You know what I mean? The vato's, he's ready for whatever. And immediately, as soon as he turned like this, he had a big old TRG on his neck. And about 4 vatos from Long Beach jumped up, right there on site. They didn't wait for fucking behind the handball court. They didn't wait for the fucking school area. They didn't wait for fucking in the latrine area, behind the toilets where Joker likes to hang. They didn't care about none of that. They got off where they were mad at immediately, okay? And I remember everybody going down and mace flying and vatos fucking panicking. And I said, damn, bro, what was that all about? They got off on that chino quick, right? And the homeboy told me, he said, yeah, man, they beef real tough with the TRG, in Long Beach. It's on site, basically. On both sides, they've lost a lot of good homeboys, a lot of camaradas, a lot of friends. So it's like to death do that motherfucker's part. And I mean, they got off. And that wasn't the only time I seen it. It seemed like every time a tiny rascal gangster from Long Beach touched down, y pobrecito, they were on him. They were on them quicker than ever. And here were Norteños functioning on the same yardas, the same compas, the same buildings with the Southsiders from Long Beach, and they weren't really tripping. I mean, every once in a while there'd be a little scuffle, a little melee, or a little handball court action. But for the most part, man, they did their thing and we did ours. But the vatos from fucking TRG, I'm telling you right now, as soon as they walked in, the Long Beach vatos would get off on them or they'd get off on the Longueros. It was going to happen immediately. Any Asian, the first motherfucker from Long Beach would jump up, hey, where you from, homie? MOD, orale, boom, kick back, orale, deuces, right? Or vato walk in, where you from? It's TRG, SARS, motherfucker, they were getting it, offense, defense. It was going down, and I seen it plenty of times. Now, what happened was when I went up north to Preston, something changed. And what changed was, this was the first time I ran into a homeboy that was actually from Long Beach and was a TRG, but he was a Norteño. Now, backstory to this. Because of that beef, like I said, man, it's been going on for decades between Long Beach, the west side and east side of Longo, and the TRGs. The vatos were tired again of being oppressed. Of course, you're going to have, it seemed like Longo was always deeper than TRGs. That's just the way it was. It's the way it is. So they were able to pick them off as they would come in. And quietly, don't sleep on it, man. Don't think that the vatos were just getting took off on and stop gangbanging. They kept coming out of the oil and handling it. Coming out of the oil and handling it. Hey, stop, press, fast forward, repeat. You know what I mean? It was on repeat all day. They were holding their own. They were down for the TRG. And the TRG broke off not only from being just in Long Beach, but there was also TRG in Fresno. We had some in Merced. I'm not sure if they were in Stockton. I won't speak in that in Sacramento, but I know there was TRGs from everywhere, predominantly Long Beach where they formed and Fresno. But they were about their business. But this was the first time in Preston that I actually ran into a TRG that had became a norteño. Now you say to yourself, oh, TRG, norteño, how does that fucking correlate? I'm going to tell you how it happens. This vato kept coming to the Nina and getting moved on by Long Beach, right? Of course, the Longos were fucking handling their business. They were on him. And he was handling, and finally one day what happened was some norteños were in the school area and backed his play on something. And what that did was that got a little bit of a love in his mente, a little bit of love for the norte, you know, within him. And he became cool with a lot of homeboys that were back in Tamarack in the oil. So every time word was sent out, hey, protect the homeboy Little Man. His name was Little Man from TRG. He was actually from Long Beach. Little dark Cambodian vato. Hey, every time Little Man gets out there, Holmes, back his play because he's a righteous individual. He's a well-respected individual and he handles his business. And he keeps getting jumped, Holmes, and we can't see this vato get jumped like that. He's now become a friend, a sympathizer to the cause. So of course we were getting off, boom, 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 back in his play. And eventually one day he came out with a CXIV, Holmes, talking about this motherfucker TRG Norte, and he proceeded as such. And so now, hey, the Long Beach vato used to be mad too. They used to be like, you know what I mean? But we'd get at him like, hey, bro, check it out. He's a homeboy. I know he's TRG, but this is the way it is. And some places they let bygones be bygones. I'm sure eventually it caught up to him or whatever the case may be. You know, he was the double enemiga, you know, for them. But that's just the way it was. He was the only one that I ever ran into like that, but that's righteously a true fact. I did run into Little Man, the TRG. If you're out there, shout outs, respect. You already know what it is. Horticulture class. Remember I was choking about the eye, giving them the business. But TRG is a well-known gang. And not to be slept on, man, but hey, likewise for Longo. I will say this, man, them vatos out of Longo, shit, Holmes, when I was in YA and in prison, they get a lot of respect, Holmes. That whole harbor area, that's a big ranfla, man, and they get a lot of love. You know, I've always seen them as respectable, handled their business, very humble people, got their shit together. That's what I will say. Indubitably, I'm stating facts where facts are to be stated, and that's real. But I just think that it's one of those rivalries, one of those beef that's happened for so many decades that there needed to be some light shedded on it. Now, I know a lot of people know about the Tiny Rascal Gang, and I know, of course, indubitably, a lot of people know about Longo, East Side and the West Side, but no one really talks about this beef, you know, and it's been going on for a long time. Of course, it's like the beef between Norteños, Bulldogs, and Sureños. It's something that's been happening for decades, but of course, you go to different places and things change, seasons change. Over here in the Feds, they're going to ride with Norteños as well as Sureños. Over here, it's on site. Over here, they're just doing their own thing. Over here, these guys are doing, it's always different. But with these two group factions, and I call them group factions, not necessarily prison gangs, but two gangs, right? Street gangs. Shit, there was no love lost. Not right now, to this day, there ain't no love lost with these vatos. These vatos are fully on hit mode. And this is just based on, it's kind of like a fight for their city. You know, no one likes to get into inner city politics if you're not involved in that city. Sasuke, hey, my name's Bennett. I ain't in it, Holmes. And not Benedict Arnold because Sasuke, I don't turn my back. I just don't got nothing to say about other cities' beefs. Okay, but what I will say is this. It's something that was very instrumental on what happened down south. Because, see, what happened down south is, like I said, in the beginning, that west side of Long Beach and that east side of Long Beach used to go at it. Oh, they were bitter rivals for many, many years before the Asians came along and changed the game, right? And once the Asians came along, there was just too much going on. And the big carnales from down south said, Charlie, Holmes, you guys are to cease that bullshit with each other and focus on these other vatos that are fucking posing a threat to what we got going on out here in Harbor area, into Long Beach. And they did that. They were able to put them beefs to the side. But for some reason, these vatos have not been able to put their beef to the side with the Asians, period. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the Asian boys, another big, deep gang, well-respected, and a lot of respect to them because they're very active and they function. They're activated over there, right? I'm not going to say nothing on them as far as who they beef with and who they don't because I don't know. I'm just saying as far as the Tiny Rascal gangsters, the TRGs, shit, Holmes, hitters in a half shell. Turtle Power been doing their thing. And I just like to speak on it because I've actually had the privilege of doing time with individuals from TRG. You know, and doing time with them, man, I got to meet a lot of them and talk to them. And where I come from, the city I come from, it's got a big Asian community. Merced, you know. We got a lot of MOD, HBO, Oriental Troops, Olokes, True Blue, Shit, the list could go on and on. Black Tigers, just a lot of different Asian gangs, Asian boys, Laos boys, Vietnamese boys, a lot of different gangs. Of course, the predominant group is MOD, and a few TRG. But we never beefed with them. Like I said, we might have had like inner scuffles or maybe a one-on-one in the school or something. You know, maybe fucking motherfuckers are both trying to get that same 40. So I was getting, no, I want the last makers. No, I want to make it sauce. Okay, well, I guess you get it then. You know, maybe that. But as far as actual gangs beefing, hating each other, that never happened. You know, the Mexicanos or Chicano gangs, the Norteños primarily, we always got along with the Asians. It was always cool. It was always respect, no beef. And so we weren't stupid. They have fucking AK-59s. I already told you. Shit, I ain't making it up. It was like a hybrid. You know what I mean? They had some shit. We weren't dumb. Of course, man, we had we had two at that point in time. But they had better. I mean, straight up. Anyone knows, man, the Asians always got the shit. They always got the strap. You know, they bumping, like I said, man, they be bumping out one more, try that too. Spring love, come back to me. Da, 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 da. They ain't fucking around, homes. They're out there Stevie B, homes, and they're 9-plated nickels. And that's what it is. But what just intrigued me about this story necessarily was just how, you know, I remember that beef. You know, I remember being in YA and see, that was one of the only beefs where Vatos got off on sight. You know, unless it was like, oh, this guy's on site for whatever reason, you know, he's a fucking weirdo. Of course, we're going to take him out real quick. You got to go, Hums. You got to go, right? But it wasn't like that. If you had the Playboys and the Florencia that would get there, and they were bitter enemies, or East Coast and Florencia Crips, bitter enemies. They would just go behind the hammer court, talk it out, handle their business, you know, make things happen. But when it came to this group right here, like I said, the TRGs and the Longos, they would not function on the same yard together for 5 minutes. Period. If Avate got in there and had a T, you know what I mean? And he was Asian, and as soon as they seen the T, they're getting off on him, and he's turning like that, just says Timmy T. You know what I mean? It's Spencer, it's Timmy T fan. They didn't care, Holmes. Better safe than sorry. This is just how it went. So I'm sure that, you know, based on a lot of years and a lot of decades of inner fighting, you know, a lot of street gang beef, a lot of things going on both sides. There's just a distaste in their mouth, a sourness in their taste for each other, you know? Something that's probably rivals fucking Russia versus the United States. They hate each other. Vatos really are in some hatred towards each other, you know? Different level. Whole different level. I've seen it personally, like I said, with my own eyes. Pobrecito, I seen one Asian guy. He came to the compa 5 times. 5 times he got put on his back. Man, I seen another compa, man, where the Asian dude came. He put 5 different people on their back. It just went back and forth, man. But one thing I can say, and why I have a lot of respect, and I had to touch on this for sure, first and foremost, is, man, the Long Beach Vatos, like I said, the Sureños, very well respected. Nothing but love and respect. I've seen you Vatos handle your business. You're good, upstanding Southsiders. Nothing bad to say about you guys. Not even a crumb or a crunion to say bad about you guys. And the TRGs, bro, my respect is insurmountable, Hums. It's a bountiful, bro. Or am I making words up? Word of the day, a bountiful. It's a bountiful. I can't even fucking put a number to the amount of respect I have for you Vatos, because I never once seen a TRG break it down or bow down. Now, of course, you're going to have some Vatos from Longo. And I ran into, I remember Tiny from Westside Longo. He was a little short, douche stock. He was about his business. He'd probably be right here like, nah, fuck that. Gunner, you're giving him too much love. I'm going to give everyone love, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for, homes, to show righteous respect to all those involved and all those minorities worthy of the cause. And in that fashion. But, yeah, it's just something that's been going on for a long time, you know, and I don't know the politics into Long Beach and what exactly fuels that fire. All I know is that when they came into that area, they started to get deep oppressed. They ganged together. They formed a group, and they started smacking back. And, of course, the Longueros wasn't going to have that, and they started smacking again. And it's just, the smacking's been happening. It's been real. But it happens. You know, as far as prison, I'm not going to sit here and say that I seen TRG in prison immediately they get off, because that's, of course, that's not going to happen, because if that was going to happen, everywhere a TRG went, fucking it'd be on site forever. In prison's a little bit different makeup. Of course, they roll with the others, and that's just the way it is. And of course, I'm sure if the Vatos have pedo, you know, with a certain Vato from Long Beach, they can handle it. But once you get to, you elevate your status to prison status, you're on some more grown man shit, you're off that street gang level shit, and it's more of an organization thing and a prison politic thing. And I think you can let fucking bygones be bygones for a minute. You know, but I'm sure, man, if something cracks off between the others and the Sureños, you already know where Longo's headed. They're straight on that Vatos helmet. And vice versa. Anyways, man, I hope that you move fast with a purpose. I hope that you guys get everything that you want coming to you. You know, the holiday season is coming, man. Look out for somebody. Show a lot of people a lot of respect. Them TRGs, them Longos, homes. That rivalry, unmatched, homes. That's worse than Billy the Kid and Wyatt Earp versus fucking Doc Holliday and that other pendejo with the red handkerchief. Talking about, don't shoot me. Bang, bang. The gun, you know what it is, man. Go out there and hustle.